My best friend drove a broken sword through my cultivation core because he believed killing me was the only way to save our sect. The worst part was not the pain. It was that I had trusted him enough to turn my back. For 11 years, Chen Ryu had trained beside me, eaten from the same cracked bowls, and slept under the same leaking roof. When the other disciples called me Hollow Liang, he was the one who stood between us. When they laughed because I could not complete even the first step of the Hundredfold path, Chen Ryu laughed louder than all of them. Then he broke their teeth. He was my brother in every way except blood. So when he asked me to meet him beneath the abandoned hall of teachers, I went alone. I should have known something was wrong when he hugged me. Chen Ryu had not hugged anyone since his father died. His arms tightened around my shoulders. His voice shook beside my ear. "Forgive me, Liang." Then cold metal entered my back. The blade punched through the center of my chest and struck the place where my spiritual core should have been. For most cultivators, that wound would have shattered years of progress. For me, it found only emptiness. I collapsed against him, unable to breathe. Chen Ryu lowered me carefully to the stone floor as if gentleness could change what he had done. Around us, hidden lanterns flared to life. Sect elders stepped from the shadows. Elder Mo stood at their center, his gray robes untouched by the dust that covered the forgotten hall. Behind him waited Zhao Ren, the sect's most gifted disciple, smiling like he had already inherited everything I owned. Which was almost nothing. A straw mat. 2 robes. A wooden training sword. A silver sparrow charm that had belonged to my mother. Zhao Ren crouched beside me and pulled the charm from my neck. "You carried this all these years?" he asked. "How sentimental." I tried to reach for it. My fingers would not move. Chen Ryu looked away. That hurt more than the sword. Elder Mo rested one hand on Chen Ryu's shoulder. "You have done the sect a great service." Chen Ryu flinched beneath his touch. I forced air into my lungs. "Why?" My voice barely reached them. Elder Mo answered as though explaining a lesson to a slow child. "Because weakness is no longer affordable. Our sect had survived for 300 years by guarding the Hundredfold stair, an ancient cultivation path carved into the mountain itself. Every generation, disciples climbed its 100 steps. Each step tested the body, spirit, memory, and will. Most disciples reached 10. Talents reached 30. Elders reached 50 or 60. No one in living memory had passed the 70th step. I had never passed the first. The stair rejected me before my foot touched stone. It had become a public ritual. Once each year, I was ordered to try. Once each year, the barrier threw me backward while the sect watched. They said I had no path. They were right. At least, that was what everyone believed. Elder Mo pointed toward the far wall. Ancient symbols had been painted there in fresh blood-red ink. They surrounded a door I had never seen before, a narrow slab of black stone with no handle. "The neighboring clans march against us," he said. "By dawn, they will surround the mountain. The old records describe a weapon beneath this hall. A force capable of defending the sect, but it requires a sacrifice untouched by cultivation." My mouth went dry. "You need someone with an empty core. We need you." I looked at Chen Ryu. He still would not meet my eyes. "You knew." His jaw tightened. "They showed me the records. And you believed them." "I saw the armies below the mountain." "So you decided I was worth less than everyone else." "That is not what this is." "Then what is it?" Chen Ryu finally looked at me. His eyes were wet, but his voice hardened. "One life for thousands." There it was. The kind of sentence people use when the life being traded is not their own. I had heard similar words from instructors every time a weak disciple was denied medicine so a talented one could recover faster. One for thousands. The weak for the strong. The forgotten for the promising. I looked at the elders surrounding us. Every one of them had taught that the path revealed a person's true worth. Now their path had led them here. To a dark chamber. To a knife in the back. To calling murder a necessary calculation. Here is the question I still cannot answer. If sacrificing one innocent person truly could save an entire sect, would refusing make that person selfish? Or does the moment you demand an unwilling sacrifice prove the sect no longer deserves to be saved? At the time, I did not have the strength to argue. The broken sword had been coated in spirit-numbing poison. My heartbeat slowed. My vision blurred. Elder Mo ordered Chen Ryu to drag me to the black door. Chen Ryu bent down. I whispered, "Do not touch me." His hands froze. For 1 second, I saw the boy who had shared half his food when we were children. Then Elder Mo said his name. Chen Ryu obeyed. He lifted me beneath the arms and dragged me across the floor. My blood traced a thin line through the dust. Zhao Ren pressed my mother's silver sparrow into the center of the door. The charm clicked into a hidden hollow. The door opened. Not inward. It unfolded. One black layer became 2, then 4, then 8, each sliding through the next in ways stone should not move. Cold air rolled from the gap. I heard whispering beneath us. Hundreds of voices. No. Not hundreds. One voice repeating itself through hundreds of mouths. Step. 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 The elders carried me into a spiral chamber beneath the hall. There was no altar waiting below. There was a staircase. It descended into darkness. Each step was carved with a different name. Some names belonged to legendary masters whose statues stood throughout the sect. Others had been scratched away. At the top of the staircase waited a stone seat shaped like a kneeling man. Iron bands hung from its arms. Chen Ryu placed me in it. When the restraints closed around my wrists, the chamber inhaled. That is the only way I can describe it. The walls pulled inward. The darkness below shifted. Every lantern went out. Then the first erased teacher spoke from beneath the stairs. Another empty vessel. Elder Mo raised both hands and began the ritual. Symbols ignited along the floor. Spiritual energy poured from the elders into the staircase. The carved names began to glow. Pain entered me from every direction. Not the sharp pain of a blade. This was pressure. Something immense was trying to force itself into the hollow place inside my chest. Images flashed through my mind. Disciples kneeling before instructors. Instructors kneeling before elders. Elders kneeling before the path. Every generation repeating the same techniques. Every student praised for obedience. Every dissenter erased. I saw teachers discovering new forms, only to be condemned because their teachings contradicted the official Hundredfold path. Their names were cut from records. Their disciples were scattered. Their bodies were buried beneath the hall of teachers. The staircase was not a weapon. It was a grave. Elder Mo knew. I saw that truth in his face as the voices rose. He had never intended to awaken some ancient defense. He intended to feed the erased teachers into Zhao Ren. I was merely the empty vessel needed to draw them out. Once they entered me, Elder Mo would tear them free and transfer their accumulated knowledge into his chosen disciple. Zhao Ren stepped closer, excitement shining in his eyes. How long until the transfer? Moments, Elder Mo said. Chen Ryu stared at him. If you want us to keep making more stories like this, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Azure Inkblade. Now, back to the chapter. Transfer? You said Liang's sacrifice would seal the mountain. Elder Mo did not look away from the ritual. Power will seal the mountain. Zhao Ren will wield it. You said Liang would die quickly. He will die usefully. Chen Ryu's face emptied. I wanted to laugh. Not because anything was funny. Because my brother had betrayed me based on a lie so obvious he could only have believed it because part of him wanted to. He wanted the sect to survive. He wanted his choice to mean something. He wanted me to forgive him before I died. The voices entered my core. The emptiness inside me cracked. Elder Mo smiled. Then his smile faded. The energy did not flow through me toward Zhaoran. It stayed. The first spirit unfolded inside my chest like a page opening. A woman appeared in my mind, wearing robes from an age before the sect had a name. Her face had been scratched from every record, but I recognized her instantly. She was the teacher whose statue stood at the base of the Hundredfold stair. The sect called the statue the Nameless Disciple. She had never been a disciple. She had built the stair. They misunderstood emptiness, she said. Her voice was calm. Outside my body, Elder Mo shouted for the others to increase the ritual. More power flooded into me. More cracks spread through the hollow core they had mocked my entire life. The woman touched one crack. Light poured through it. A filled vessel can hold only what it was shaped to contain, she said. An empty vessel may choose its shape. The second spirit entered me. Then the third. A sword teacher whose style had been banned for using retreat as a weapon. A healer exiled for teaching that damaged meridians could grow stronger through controlled healing. A beast tamer who believed spiritual creatures should be partners rather than slaves. A blind instructor who mapped cultivation through sound. A child who had reached the 40th step by inventing a new movement and was killed before anyone could copy it. They did not try to possess me. They asked one question. Will you learn? I had spent my entire life begging the path to accept me. For the first time, teachers were asking for my consent. I answered yes. The iron bands around my wrists shattered. The chamber shook. Elder Mo stumbled backward. Impossible. I stood. The broken sword remained lodged through my chest, but I no longer felt weak. I felt unfinished. There was a difference. Zhaoran attacked first. He drew his blade and used the sect's 7th step sword form, a technique I had watched him practice 1,000 times. His strike was flawless. That was its weakness. Every disciple learned the same angle. Every instructor corrected the same foot placement. Every master praised the same timing. The erased sword teacher whispered inside me. Move where the form says no opponent would stand. I stepped backward. Zhaoran smiled, believing I had retreated. Then my heel struck the wall, and I used it to launch myself forward at an angle the 7th form did not defend. My palm hit his wrist. His sword spun away. My elbow struck his core. I did not shatter it. I could have. Instead, I stopped 1 inch short. He collapsed from the force alone. Elder Mo sent chains of spiritual light across the chamber. The blind teacher showed me their vibration. I closed my eyes. The chains sang through the air. I walked between the notes. One passed my cheek. Another cut my sleeve. The third wrapped around the broken sword still piercing me. I seized the chain and pulled. Elder Mo flew forward. Chen Ryu caught him before he struck the stairs. For a moment, they stood together. The master who had lied. The disciple who had believed him. Elder Mo shoved Chen Ryu aside and raised both hands toward me. You ungrateful fool. Without this sect, you would be nothing. I looked at the names carved into the descending staircase. Without the people you erased, this sect would be nothing. The chamber answered. Every name ignited. Elder Mo's face twisted with terror. He tried to end the ritual. The ritual no longer belonged to him. The staircase turned. Stone ground against stone as the steps reversed direction. What had descended into darkness now climbed toward the hall above. The black door opened over us. Dawn light spilled down. I began walking upward. With every step, another forgotten teacher joined me. Not as a ghost others could see, but as weight in the air, pressure in the stone, and memories moving behind my eyes. Chen Ryu called my name. I stopped. He stood below me, trembling. I was wrong. You stabbed me. I thought I was saving everyone. You decided I was not part of everyone. He had no answer. That silence was the first honest thing he had given me since I entered the hall. Elder Mo crawled toward Zhao Ran, still desperate to preserve his chosen future. The erased teachers murmured inside me. Some wanted judgment. Some wanted revenge. Some wanted the entire sect torn down stone by stone. I understood them. I could have let the power consume Elder Mo, Zhao Ran, and Chen Ryu together. No one would have stopped me. Instead, I pulled the broken sword from my chest and dropped it at Chen Ryu's feet. Carry that, I said. Every day. He looked down at the blade. Why spare me? I am not sparing you. I pointed toward the stairs. You will climb behind me. You will hear every name the sect erased. You will help restore every teaching it buried. You will tell every disciple what you did to awaken them. His face tightened with shame. And if I refuse? Then you can leave. He looked stunned. The old sect offered obedience or punishment. I offered a choice. That was the first step of my path. Above us, warning bells rang across the mountain. Enemy banners appeared beyond the gates. The elders panicked. They expected me to become their weapon. I did not. I became their teacher. When the invading cultivators reached the Hundredfold stair, I stood alone at its base. They laughed when they recognized Hollow Liang. Then the stair accepted my foot. The first step lit beneath me. Then the second. Then 10 more. The mountain shook as pathways hidden for centuries opened through the stone. The invaders saw one weak disciple climbing. What they did not see was the army of knowledge climbing with me. Every forbidden stance. Every abandoned healing art. Every technique the sect had rejected because it could not be controlled. I reached the 70th step before noon. At the 71st, the enemy leaders knelt. Not because I ordered them to. Because the pressure of 100 unfinished paths forced them to face the limits of their own. Behind me came the disciples of my sect. Some followed from loyalty. Some from fear. Some because, for the first time, the stair no longer demanded that they imitate the person ahead of them. It asked what only they could become. Chen Ryu climbed last. The broken sword was tied across his back. He never asked me to forgive him again. Years later, people would claim my hidden power awakened because of destiny. They would say my empty core had secretly been the rarest talent in the world. That is not true. My emptiness was not power. It was possibility. The betrayal only broke the walls others had built around it. I did not become strong because my best friend stabbed me. I became strong because, after he did, I stopped begging his path to decide my worth. And behind him climbed every teacher the path had ever erased. For more original cultivation fantasy from Azure Inkblade, continue into the Hundredfold path on Royal Road, and follow the Azure Inkblade YouTube channel for more standalone stories from this universe.